What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Homeless Landlord, episode 4. This podcast is about me, a traveling landlord who's full-time trying to get to every country on earth. And this is actually my first episode being recorded overseas. I am in South Morocco, which is I'm very close to Western Sahara. I'm just outside Western Sahara. I spent a couple days there after exploring Morocco. Well, mostly just Marrakesh. Um, and I'm in an Airbnb or a guest house from booking.com. I'm limited to the lighting I have and the surroundings that I'm in, but it's a nice spot. I like it. I have my laptop in front of me. I have my microphone hooked up to a chair and I'm ready to go. So, 1 week in, and Morocco is a beautiful country, amazing people, very affordable for Americans, as is most of the world, definitely most of Africa. The first day I was there, I mostly just explored Marrakesh. I went to the gardens and Bahia Palace, which are the top two most visited sites in Marrakesh. The rest of the city is mostly very much filled with vendors. There's markets, the Medina Market, I believe it's called, with tons of vendors. And they sell everything from food to clothing to souvenirs to anything you need. A lot of the locals, I think, go there too. Don't quote me on that. And one of the days I was supposed to go on a tour out to the Uzud waterfalls, which I believe are in the High Atlas Mountains. And my tour guide just completely ghosted me, sort of like many of your first dates on Tinder. And it kind of sucked because I went into the city and I tried to book another tour and nothing. It was too late in the day. It bummed me out. I waited an hour. The guy never answered the phone call. And stuff like that happens when you're traveling, especially to places like things like this. They're not super common, especially because they want you to. I didn't pay the guy. You pay them afterwards, obviously, unless you book it online. I didn't book this one online. I booked it while I was actually at the market. I was at the market and I walked by a couple different tour guide booths. Chose one at random. The price was amazing. They all are amazing for, once again, for Americans, equivalent to $20 US, and you had 13 hours that you were going to spend. And all the tour guides were offering at the same price range. But yeah, 13 hours, and that included, again, the waterfalls, a boat tour somewhere, and I don't know, something else, some other city. But it didn't happen. So that was sort of a waste of a day, although I did find a casino, and I played in a poker tournament because I do like to play poker. Only in tournaments, only tournament style, and like a couple times a year, maybe like 4 or 5 times a year. And it was a lot of fun. It was good times. Did not win, but yeah, Marrakesh. You can definitely be a nomad traveler in Marrakesh. I was taking the local bus everywhere. Local bus, I believe, is called Asla or Alsa. And from a lot of the blogs I read online, they highly recommend taking the exact change, but because they don't have change a lot of times the bus drivers don't have change. I didn't have that experience. Anytime I paid, I didn't have exact change and I always got change. But there are no cards that you need to buy. They don't accept credit cards. You just pay cash. And you get around for dirt cheap. We're talking 40 cents a ride, maybe, I think. Yeah, it's four dirhams. Or, yeah, 4 Moroccan dirhams. Or is it 40 dirhams, which is equivalent to no, it's 4 dirhams, which is 40 cents. Yeah, so we use that to get around, and we also use an app called InDrive. So this is kind of interesting. InDrive is technically not legal in Morocco. Now this is my first country in Africa, so I don't know how many other countries have InDrive, but it's practically a carbon copy of what happened with Uber when they first came around in the US and they were going to different cities. A lot of times they were operating illegally because obviously the taxi drivers and the city a lot of times work together. You get the taxi driver emblems from the city. So therefore the taxi drivers' jobs are at risk and they're going to make less money when Uber came in. So a lot of the cities were banning Uber. I remember in my city of Philly, it was actually banned in the beginning for a while. And Uber drivers had to kind of work around the system, and they kind of call you in advance if you were near the airport because they were trying to avoid any legal problems with the police. So InDrive is practically the Uber of Morocco in terms of them going through the same exact thing. So InDrive drivers will not they'll try to avoid the police, and they want you to sit in the front and act like you're a friend. They don't want you to look like you're being picked up. You got to kind of, like, sometimes they'll drop you off someplace that's a little short of the destination, but you're paying approximately 25 to 45 dirhams per ride, which is like $2.50 to like $5. It's like $2 to $5 per ride in the city. I think the taxis are double. So taxis are still very cheap for an American, probably for, obviously for Europeans as well. But, if you want to go even cheaper, if you're watching every dollar, which I try to do just because why not? It's almost like if you give me two apples and they're identical, and apples are actually a bad example because then you could bring in the example of the Garden of Eden, and then it's like morally terrible. But forget that. Let's just say you gave me two bottles of Coke. I can't come up with a great example, but if you gave me two of these same exact things, and one of them is like sort of illegal, but not illegal, like you're involved in, all right, you're not necessarily breaking laws, but you're doing something that's frowned upon because you're still helping the InDrive driver. If two things are identical, then I'm going to take the one that's cheaper unless I'm actually harming somebody. I don't know. That's just how I am as a nomad traveler. That's how you should be as well. Yeah, and it's not sketchy. Like, the drivers are super friendly, and hopefully they'll be legal one day. Maybe not, hopefully, because maybe that'll hurt the taxi drivers. But yeah, again, Uber and InDrive I see as the same thing. Let me just make sure my mic is still on. Good, it's on, because my other mic actually died before I started recording. See, I wrote some notes here. Oh, I also wrote something in here about tagine and tangia, or tangia. They're two different foods. I think I've only had tagine. I haven't had tangia yet, which is interesting because I believe Tangier is from Marrakesh, not from Tangier, which is a city in North Morocco. There's Tangier, there's Tangia, there's tagine. They're all different things. According to one Moroccan, tagine has nothing to do with Tangier. I don't know if that's true. It could be true, but I had tagine. I had lemon chicken tagine. Very good. It was in a bowl with olives and broth, and then they served bread on the side with salsa. It was really good. And then I had fish tagine. I mean, the plate was insane. It was like you could feed four easily with this plate. And I ate about half of it. I'm going to eat the other half tonight, happily. I will easily eat for two when I'm traveling. Yeah, so according to a quick Google search, and it's actually pulled from Atlas Obscura, which is one of my favorite sites to use while traveling. It says, like Moroccan tagine, tangia is both a dish and its vessel. Okay, so the vessel is probably that cone-shaped, iconic ceramic thing that we all know from Morocco. I believe that's probably that's probably the vessel. While tagine is cooked over charcoal or a wood fire, tangia relies on the low heat of smoldering ashes. Okay, so they're cooked on two different preparation methods for the way they cook, which is interesting. I didn't know that. I mean, I've always loved food. My favorite form of food has always been cooked directly on fire. Tangia actually cooks it on ashes. So I'm going to Casablanca these next few days. So I do plan to look for some tangia over there, and couscous. I haven't had couscous yet. So yeah, Marrakesh has been pretty cool. It's my 60th country, and yeah, and now I've driven down here to the Western Sahara. So the Western Sahara is a disputed territory that used to be governed by Spain, and Spain is just north of Morocco, right past to the Strait of Gibraltar. So they almost touch. Morocco and so the north of Morocco and the south of Spain practically touch. They're separated by the Strait of Gibraltar. So if you've heard of Gibraltar, the Rock of Gibraltar, that's technically owned by the UK. It's just the very southern tip of. So technically, when you're crossing into Morocco, I believe you're leaving. Like if there's a ferry, I believe that runs from Gibraltar to Tangier. So technically, you're leaving from the UK into Morocco. Ain't that some shit? Sorry about that. Um, yeah, so I drove that. So currently, Western Sahara or Sahara is a disputed territory that's governed and claimed by Morocco, and it has been for quite some time. And nobody really argues it, I don't think. So I rented a car from Marrakesh, and if I can, first of all, renting cars is always a risk overseas because of so many things. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten tickets months after I've returned the car and I'm home and I got a ticket in the not in the mail. Well, no, once I got it in the mail. So once they shipped, I forget where that was from. They actually shipped the ticket overseas, and then once or twice I've gotten an email from the car rental place with the copy of the ticket. It's super annoying. The speed limit in the U.S. is usually not the speed. It's more of a suggestion in a lot of places. Cops don't really mess with you, depending on where you are, until you're going like maybe 15, sometimes 20 over, maybe 10, depending on the area. Overseas, it's not really like that. You should really stay within the speed limit. And the crazy thing is, it's even slower because everything's by kilometer, and a lot of times a kilometer, like it can be, like I'm in an open road on the desert, and the maximum speed limit's 100. We're talking miles and miles and miles of straight roads with nothing, and 100 kilometers is the limit. That's 62 miles per hour. It's not that fast, and so definitely do the speed limit. And by the way, I don't know, I hope the audio sounds okay. So if there's an echo, it's, again, I'm limited to the places I'm at. That's probably going to happen often as I'm traveling, where the audio quality is not going to be consistent. My bad. I should probably get a better mic. Maybe I will. Yeah, if you like and subscribe and you share and you give me a reason and you help, if I can make some, all right. So yeah, if I made money from this, is what I was going to say. In case you were wondering. Renting a car, you always got to stay within the speed limit. And you have to be aware of police. So police operate differently in different places, but in this particular stretch between Morocco and Western Sahara, they have police checkpoints everywhere. I must have ran across like 20 of them. So what you have to do is you have to slow down as you're approaching the checkpoint, and you may or may not be asked to pull over. And honestly, the cops are like mad friendly in Morocco, like super chill. So on the way down, it was like a 10-hour drive. I only got stopped or asked to stop twice along those checkpoints. And both times I think they were more just curious about, I mean, obviously, so they asked for your paperwork and your driver's license, make sure the car is legit, make sure you're driving legally. And I think that at that point they were just like curious, like, hey, what's up, man? You're an American driving down here? So nobody really grilled me. It wasn't that bad. Like, I've had some worse experiences in Latin America with renting cars and cops. But yeah, so I might have a little bit of PTSD from that, but again, it's not like that here. And this is really the only place I plan to rent a car in quite some time, and that's because of the way I originally booked the ticket for Morocco and then Mauritania, and I had a few extra days in the middle, and I was like, well, why not? Why not go to Western Sahara and visit the disputed territory, which I'm counting as an independent country because there are, according to some metrics, there are 197 official countries. Which differentiate from the 195 and the 193. So if we're going for the max, if we're going for 197, that means having to go to Western Sahara. And yeah, the most popular place is actually a place called Dakhla, which is a beach town. But it was way too far south for me to go. It was an extra like 600 kilometers, and I was already driving 1,000 kilometers from Marrakesh. So I drove 8 hours one day, stayed at this place I'm at now. And from here, it's another 2 hours. So I drove into Laayoune, which is the capital of Western Sahara. I spent the day there, and then I drove 2 hours back here today. I'm resting here again today and then heading back to drop off the rental car. So I'm looking forward to another 9 hours in the desert being asked to stop by police over and over and over again. Can't wait for that. But yeah, they're super, they're friendly. They don't have an agenda. Like I'm telling you, you never really know when you're getting pulled over in a foreign country, especially in the middle of the desert. Like I'm talking, again, miles and miles of just nothingness. It's just desert. Now the road is well paved, very well paved, maintained, very easy to get to. There's one main road. I think there's two. There might be two, but there's one main one everyone takes, the N1 it's called. And you're sort of at certain points, you're driving along the coast, which is the Atlantic Ocean. It was pretty cool to see the Atlantic Ocean from the other side because I'm obviously from Philadelphia. I'm a couple hours away from the Jersey Shore, so it was cool seeing it from the other side. And it was also cool seeing the desert meet the ocean. Now, we're used to the beach meeting the ocean, so is it really any different? It's all sand and water next to each other. I don't know. I didn't create the earth. I just walk on it. Yeah. Sometimes I ride bikes. Sometimes I drive through police checkpoints. All right. So yeah. So it's been a fun couple of days of driving down into the desert, seeing a bunch of camels out in the wild. I didn't think I'd run into a bunch of wild camels like almost immediately as soon as I got to like Western Sahara, just like herds of, or what do they call them? Caravans, or maybe no, not flock, maybe flocks. There's a couple names you can call a group of camels. One of them is definitely caravans. Um, but yeah, yeah. So it's been a cool week. It's been mostly smooth. I've been extra diligent on making sure I have everything with me. I'm not losing anything. I'm not misplacing anything. Which is funny though, because at one point today, I dropped all my cash as I was walking into a McDonald's. I was going into the McDonald's to see if I can get some Wi-Fi for a few minutes. And then as I'm walking into I parked my car outside, dropped the cash, didn't realize it, walked towards the McDonald's building. Then I saw where the entrance was to the parking lot to park my car so I can stay inside the McDonald's for a little bit. So I turned back around and walked to my car, and there it was. It was the equivalent of like 50 or 60 US dollars, which is a little bit more here in Moroccan. It was like, 400 dirham or 500 dirham, just right there on the floor. And it would have definitely been gone by the time I got out of the McDonald's if I didn't just turn back around. So silly little things like that I do very often, but luckily for the most part, nothing. I mean, it's been all smooth sailing so far. I am quite sure that's not always going to be the case when I hop on here. But in another interesting thing, I had my tripod out in Layun, Western Sahara, and I was just trying to get a picture because I'm an Instagrammer and I like to take the pictures that make you think that I'm doing something insane or that I'm like in the most beautiful place on the planet, which a lot of times I am. And the park ranger came over and in Arabic was like, nope. So it's funny. I actually am aware that taking pictures in public is going to be a problem in some of these countries, especially places that seem to be more military controlled, police controlled. I think they're afraid of certain things getting out there. Not that they're necessarily performing in any illegal actions or immoral actions, but I mean, maybe some of that's, I don't know. But they don't like it, and I think they even confine you and maybe take it away. I don't know if they'll send you to jail for a night or two, but it's frowned upon in some areas. And I just know this from my research in advance. So, that's something I have to be conscious about as I'm trying to get the good shots. Is like, all right, is this worth it here? Yeah, it's tricky. It's probably good to know about it in advance of going into a country, but. Yeah, but I don't. Again, it's just small stuff. Like the little things are gonna happen all the time because you're not from other countries. But as long as for the most part you're safe, you're healthy, you got all your stuff. I've also kind of been downsizing a little bit because I'm realizing certain things. Like I'm dropping my Air Forces off. I don't need 3 pairs of shoes. I have my hiking shoes, which I'm wearing all the time, and then I have my sneakers, which I'm using for like gym and active stuff. I don't really need a pair of like I would have liked to have a pair of black sneakers as well because in case I went out someplace and wanted to look nice, I could at least disguise the fact that I'm just wearing black shoes with black pants. But oh well, that's gone. And some other smaller stuff. I'm slowly downsizing a little bit so I can because this stuff is heavy. This stuff is heavy and it's gonna. I don't want it to be. I don't want things to be a burden. We got a long way to go, so we're gonna try to keep things as light as possible. I just did a workout. I'm on the top floor. It's pretty cool where I'm at. I had to go through, we went upstairs, like we went 3 floors up and then we went outside on the roof and then back in. And the roof area is pretty nice, a little balcony. It's all to myself. There's no other units up here. So I was doing some jump ropes. I was doing some push-ups. I was doing some lunges. I did some dips and I did air squats. And I am doing this after the podcast. I'm going to shower. I'm going to eat my leftover tagine. And I'm going to get ready to head out of here tomorrow morning, heading back to drop off the car, heading to Casablanca for a few days, and then heading into Nouakchott, Mauritania, my first flight out of somewhere since I've gotten here. And maybe the last one for a while, if we're going to hit things by road. And there's a lot of planning still to be done about the next phase after, well, yeah, after Nouakchott. Oh, right. Then I have to fly into Cabo Verde, which is just close to Senegal as well. But yeah, so far so good. I wanted to jump on here real quick and say what's up. And that's it. Everything is great. You want to keep following me and seeing all the juice of my trip? Check out my Instagram at Nukeyhove, Nukeyhov. And this episode will be available on Spotify, iTunes, and Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. And if you like it, again, please tell your friends about it. Please like it, share, subscribe. Please give it a 5-star rating on Spotify. I don't know how it works with Apple, but I would really appreciate that. That goes a long way for the algorithm. And yeah, this has been great. I'll see you next time on episode 5.